This is Mr. Burley at the York Catholic District School Board. This is the fourth video in the web version of AutoCAD tutorials, floor layout, whereby we designed this particular little cabin on the water. First video, we did the exterior walls and we did the swinging doors. Then we did the video where we brought in the interior walls. We learned the hatching, we put glazing in, and so on. And now what I want to do is I want to show you how to bring in blocks. And blocks are essentially a library within AutoCAD that allows you to bring stuff in. You don't have to redraw it every time. For instance, you'd have a block, we discussed it before you, a block of windows or glazing. You'd have blocks with beds and furniture and stuff. We're going to concentrate in this area today with the blocks. So what we're going to do, the very first thing we're going to do is click on get into our classroom, and under classwork, you should have a folder resources. And within that folder resources, we have an AutoCAD resource center. And I want you to click on the design center. And then we're going to highlight the entire folder. This is in my drive. You're going to right click and you're going to download. When you download it, it will create a zipped file. I don't need this anymore. It'll create a zipped file in your downloads directory. What you're going to do is you're going to go navigate to the downloads directory. There's the zip file, and you're going to go extract all, and click OK. And it'll extract itself like that. And now it's not a zip file anymore. You can see this one's a zip file and this one's not a zip file. You're going to right click and rename it to Design Center, which I've already done. If yours is not done, rename it to Design Center. Then what you're going to do is you come back here. We don't need the classroom anymore. We're going to go into the web app. And when we're in the web app here now, we're going to upload that Design Center to here. So we're going to go upload, and you're going to go to Design Center, and we're going to upload all of these ones. You can upload them all if you want to, but just to keep things simple today, I'm going to do the kitchens. And I'm going to open it. And there it is, it's uploaded, the kitchens. Now, the nicer thing on the AutoCAD desktop version is you can see the different layouts and stuff. You can see what you're going to pick on. I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. So now what I want to do is I want to go into tutorial 1, which is the drawing that we did. It may take a little while to open. We've had some network issues here today. Let's just see if it... Okay, good, it's going to open, perfect. So now what I want to do is I want to bring the blocks into here. So I'm going to go to layers, and I'm going to go down, I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm just going to put kitchen blocks. And make it current. So I'm on the kitchen blocks layer. So now click on blocks, and there's a couple of blocks I had made earlier, previous video, but right now I want to browse for blocks. And when you do that, it'll open up this window and you'll see kitchen drawing. Click on insert. And now it comes, don't click on anything yet. It's floating around. We're just going to place it somewhere outside the drawing. It doesn't make any difference where, and it will automatically put them into the blocks, which is great. Then you're going to highlight this whole thing and you're going to delete it because you don't need it. All right. So now we're going to actually bring something in. So let's bring in the fridge first. So we're going to look down through the blocks here. And we're going to look for the top view of the fridge. Kind of hard to see, and I don't have glasses on. Right there. There you go there. Refrigerator. Top view. Okay, so you can insert, right click and insert it, or you can drag it and drop it if you want to. We're going to insert it. Now when you go to insert it, it's the wrong way around. So right click it, rotate. And I want to rotate 180 degrees, enter. And there it is. Now, there's a couple things. When you start doing this part, we're not just drawing pictures. We're actually starting to design. So this is where you have to start thinking about things. You notice that door swings in, right? So, and the door will have a doorknob on it, right? So we've got to be careful where we position our fridge. We don't want that fridge coming in, and I accidentally stuck it down, but I didn't want to do that. Let's just bring it back in again, refrigerator. Insert, right click, rotate, 180, enter. We don't want to put the fridge just anywhere, because if it comes in and that door hand, it's going to hit the brand new fridge. So there's different things you can do. You could eliminate or reduce the door opening so it doesn't go as far. You could make sure that the door handle was actually outside of the fridge. So your fridge, say for argument's sake, your fridge was here, maybe your door handle doesn't contact the fridge. Maybe it goes in front of the fridge door. So there's different things you have to start thinking about there, because fridges are nice, they're quite expensive. Now you see right now it's jumping, it's trying to snap. I want to turn the snap off because I want to be able to position it where I want myself. So you don't want the fridge right up against the wall because you need an air gap behind it. You don't want it right up against that door again because you don't want it slamming into that door. So some things you could look at later, like I said, figure that out. But these are kind of things you got to start to keep in mind as you're working through. So I would say I'm just arbitrarily picking a spot right there. You would, if you were designing this properly, you would probably measure out here, make sure it's out 2 inches, or you would find out how far that fridge has to be from the wall. You'd look at the specifications and say, okay, this fridge needs to be 4 inches or whatever the case. You might measure that back here right now and see where the door handle would reside. If the door handle is going to hit here, or maybe we get lucky and the door handle's in this neighborhood here, in which case we could just put a little door stop somewhere along here that on the floor that it wouldn't allow the door to come swinging open. Now, next thing I want to do is I'm going to bring in, say, the stove, and the stove would be up here somewhere. You have on your drawing, you have something along the lines like this. I don't know how big it was. I think it might have been like 3 feet, a wall. And I'm just going to draw that wall in real quick. I don't have it on my drawing. So I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's out 3 feet, tab 0. And it's probably going to be about 4 inches thick. I'm thinking 4 inches, tab 90. And I'm going to go back this way and bring it back into here, 3 feet, 180. And I'm going to leave it like that. So now, again, this is just a quick spot. I didn't really worry about it much, but now I want to bring in the range. So we're looking at for a top view of a range, which is right here. And we're going to insert the range. Now, of course, we have to rotate the range. I'm going to say 90 degrees. And that looks about right. Now, the same thing is true. Now, one of the things you have to consider when you're buying the range and such is where are the countertops going to go? If you have a countertop that's going to butt up against both sides of that range, you need to have some sort of a gap. You need to find out what's the maximum width of the ranges, what sizes are they all the same size? Because if you put in granite countertops, and a stove, and later on the customer says, I don't really like that stove, I want this one instead, but you find it's a little bit bigger, you might run into a problem, especially like I said, if the granite countertops are already installed. So these are things you have to start to consider, especially if you're building, say you're designing 100 houses, like they have the cookie cutter type houses, and you're designing 100 houses, and they're building 100 houses. Well, if there's a stove that doesn't fit in that spot, you got a big problem. So you have to start to consider, again, we're not just drawing now, we're starting to think about designs. So I'm thinking I wouldn't put the stove right up against there if I was the customer. I'd want to have a little preparation area in this beside my stove. I have to figure out how far the stove has to be out from the wall as well. There's got to be a gap there. So I would talk to the customer and say, well, how big of a spot do you need here for preparations? That part would all come into play. I'm just going to arbitrarily position my stove right there like that right now. Now, countertop probably about 2 feet wide. So I'd go back into my layers. I would create a new layer and I would call it countertop. And I don't know, let's make it what color? Green. Let's do green. And we want to make it current. Now, countertop is probably about 2 feet out. So we're going to go something like this. And we're going to come. Now we're not grabbing anything. I got to turn my O-snap back on. Walk it this way. Now it's grabbing the center. We want to turn that off. I don't want the midpoint being grabbed. I want to come out this way. And again, sometimes this gets a little fussy. Like right now, it's not wanting to do it. It's not wanting to grab that. I'm going to go and I'm going to see that little piece sticking off. I'm going to trim that off. See if I can't. There. So now let's try that now. So come back into the drawing. Draw a line. Is it working now? Okay, it's not doing it properly, but that's fine. I'm going to come across here. I'm going to say it's about 2 feet. Oh, it's inches, 2 feet. And I'm going to put it 0 degrees, enter. And that's right there about my, you see that? Again, a little bit of inaccuracies I find with the web version. Not sure why. I think this is off too. Let me just back up here. You can see that that's not right. This isn't right. So we're going to go back to the draw mode, and I'm on the wrong level now. I'm going to back onto kitchen blocks. And we're going to go 4 inches, tab 90 degrees, enter. That's a nice thing about AutoCAD, though. It's so easy just to really quickly fix a line if there's a problem. Not a big deal. We're going to go 3 feet and 180 degrees, and there we go. So now go back to here again. I'm going to go back onto the kitchen countertop. Grab this guy here. Walk along this edge. Now it's working. You can see it working now, and it's going to be, let's say, 3 feet. Enter. No, it's not. It's 2 feet. What am I talking about? 2 feet. 2 feet. Enter. And I'm going to come down this way. Now, you don't want to just bring the countertop right up and butt it against the stove. Again, because if the stove is too wide, if you do that and you find the stove there's variation from stove to stove. 1,000 stoves may have, one might be a 1/4 of an inch wider or 1/4 inch narrower. So what I would highly recommend is put about an inch gap out the outside here, just for our purposes. And how you do that, click here, walk up this way, 1 inch, enter, 1 foot. Here, walk up this way, 1, shift, enter. That gives me an inch away, an inch gap. So let's walk in this way now and touch that wall, which is 2 feet, tab and 180 degrees, enter. And now, didn't quite finish the line, no worries. There we go. Extend it a little further. Now I've got a 1 inch gap here, and I'm going to put a 1 inch gap on the other end as well, down here. And the reason I'm going to do that is the same thing. If there's any variation in those stoves, I don't want to have to buy a whole, cut my granite or, figure out, go and get a smaller stove. 1 inch, enter. Walk back in this way, and grabbed, jumped down the corner. Let's try that again. So here, walk out this way, 1 inch, enter. Then I'm going to go this way in here, and I'm going to come all the way in until here. And if I turn on my O snap, it should have a parent intersection. Already got it on. Okay, good. I'm going to come in this way here, and I'm going to say it's 2 foot or 2 feet, and tab 180 here, like so. A little bit too short. Modify it. Bring the trim line longer. There we go. So now I got a 1 inch gap. I would do exactly the same thing over here. I'd go over here and create a nice 1 inch gap here as well beside our refrigerator. So I come out this way, 1 inch, tab 180, enter. And now I come down this way here, like that. And so it snapped to the wrong location. Two foot, tab 90, enter. And I'm going to too short again. I'm going to trim that in. So now I've got my gap on all the things, and now I can start to draw in my countertop. So I'm going to bring my countertop, draw here, countertop here, and the countertop's 2 feet. So I'm going to click that and run the countertop over to there. See, it's trying to grab that. You can take off endpoint so it doesn't. Come in here like this, and you can see that's about 1 foot. All right, now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to bring my countertop down this way. And it's 4 feet, tab 90, enter. There's my good enough. I'm just roughly drawing it in. And I'm going to 2 feet. I want to click here. I walk this way out. 2 feet, enter. Zoom out, and I want to come across this way towards the refrigerator. I'm going to be able to, these are construction lines on the refrigerator, incidentally, or at least part of it is anyways. So like something like that. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to delete. I'm actually going to trim off. So modify, trim. Let's trim that off. I don't need that. And I don't need this little guy here either. That was just for, so now I got an air gap here. I don't actually need this either. There would be a seam though, honestly, if that was granite, there would be a seam there. Or if you were cutting for right here to put your sink, they may run that across there, but there would definitely be a seam at some location. But I'm not going to worry about it just now because this is just for, okay, so now I want to bring in the sink. So let's go back into the blocks and we'll look for the sink. And I want to, before I do that, of course, I want to switch back to the layers, kitchen blocks. There we go. Blocks. And now we're going to find, we'll get dishwashers too. We can put a dishwasher in if the customer wanted. There should be a sink in here, a double sink. There you are. Right click, insert the sink, come in here. Of course, you got to rotate the sink by 180 degrees, I think. Yeah. And now we can bring it down in here. Now I'm just going to arbitrarily populate it in here, but there would be a lot of things you would think about. Customer, where does the customer want it? Customer would be really involved, especially if you're designing a custom home. My suggestion, I would say, if it was my home, I'm going to take the O-snap off because it's jumping all over. I would probably position it right in front of the window. I'd probably maybe over here so you have an unobstructed view at the window. Dead center gives you this thing. This would be in the center of the window, but probably for our purposes here, we'll just stick it right here, something like that. I'm thinking, and then the customer can look at it and see the lake. So there's our sink, and you see our kitchen's coming together nicely. Now, one last thing before we finish up is I want to show you. We're going to draw in. We're going to go back to the layers command. Or layers. We're going to do a new layer, and we're going to put in the new layer. We're going to be cupboards. And let's change the color to, I don't know, something cool. Oh. How about white? Let's just leave it white. It's glitching on me. Okay, so now what we're going to do, cupboards are typically about 12 inches thick or 12 inches deep. So we're going to go into the draw commands, come into here. And the cupboards, if you look at the drawing here, you can see the cupboards are only here. There's no cupboards running across here because there's a window, of course, and you wouldn't want to obstruct that window. But the cupboards would be running here. They would be up over the stove, usually cut up a little bit with smaller cupboards over the stove. We would see that better in the elevation drawing. So we'll come in here, line tool, turn the snap back on, it's shut off. Walk out this way, 12, it's not perfect, but it doesn't matter, it's good enough, 12 inches. And we're gonna come down over the stove. We're going to go right to the other end, 12 inches. And you can see a failure mode here. We're going to show you in a second. So from there, and tab, enter. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It'll start to draw the line, and then the line just disappears. I've not been able to figure it out. Don't know if it's my graphics card. It's been on every video. It's caused me the same problem. But it is what it is. It's free. It's downloading. So I'll do it this way instead. So we're going to go 12 inches. Whoops. 12 inches. Tab, enter. Find a line on top of the line, but I don't care it at this moment in time. It doesn't make any difference. Come down into here, and we want it to join to that right there. And you see it's 90 degrees, and the apparent intersection is there. So there it draws it. Nice. Now here's the problem. Design failure. We're not going to fix it right now, but something you need to look at. The window is overlapping the cupboard. And on the outside of the window, there would also be trim. So it's overlapping it. So you'd have to look at that design and say, okay, well, what can I do to finish that? Do we shift the window over? Well, then it's behind here. So that's where you get the customer involved, or you come up with some solutions, 2 or 3 solutions, and then call the customer and say, here's some problems we got, but here's some possible solutions that we're going to do. Always have the solution for your customer. Don't let them give you the solution. They want confident people working for them. Now, the one last thing I would finish up here is I'd probably cross-hatch that. I'd probably hatch that out just so you can see that it's a cupboard. I mean, yeah, we've got it written as cupboards here, but I would likely do that. And properties. I'm going to say, let's leave it at 90 degrees, or 0 rather. And distance, I would say 4 inches. 0. And I'm just going to see if I can fill that. Okay. Kind of thick. I would kind of a bit too thick, but nevertheless. I'm going to change a bit. User defined. Crosshatch 0. I'm going to keep it straight. I'm going to make it 4 inches. And double no. Here. And here. And there you go. You can see now that that's defining my cupboards. Okay, so that's finished up there. I know that video was really long. My apologies. Couldn't really shorten it up because of the blocks. But what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to look at the drawing here and bring in there's under the design center that you should find something that says interior design or whatever. I forget the name, but there's beds, there's tables in there. You might find a garbage can. Maybe you're not going to design your kitchen this way. Maybe you want the fridge over here. Maybe the fridge cuts everything off. You want the garbage can here. Take a little bit of liberties. There's a couch here. There's a chair here, a chair here. The bedrooms, of course, you're going to bring the toilet in, the vanity in. This is you can just draw a crosshatch here. This is a shower. This is a wood stove. You can see the round circle is a wood pipe coming up, or is a pipe coming up from the wood stove. You can see there's a little pile of wood here. So we're going to do that. Continue that. When you come back, the next we'll get to the next video, but finish it up for that. Then before you start the next video, all this stuff should be done. Everything should be in. The next video I'm going to show you, we're going to come in and we're going to put the front porch on. We're going to put some overall dimensions and so on. Okay, thanks.